Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live discussion on The Expanse. So great to finally be back talking about The Expanse. We're going to be talking about Season 6, Episode 1, Strange Dogs. And I am joined by the man who will not negotiate with me. He will only accept my unconditional surrender, Darrin from D's Reviews. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, Mark, really excited to be spending this season here talking Expanse with you. I've been really looking forward to this. I was stoked that they got it to us so quickly. I was hoping for December, and when that was announced, it was like that was the first thing I did. I messaged Mark and I said, "Please just find a space for me. I want to talk Expanse with you." So yeah, really excited about this.
I always love talking the Expanse. I like the weekly drop, so we can talk about each episode weekly. Get to Amazon, they got 1-star negative reviews on the Expanse. They're like, "Oh, why is they dropping it weekly? They should drop it all at once." I'm like, well, that's a stupid reason to give it a 1-star. But anyway, so yes, we're here to talk about the new season. So Darrin, I gotta ask, did you hear about that there will only be 6 episodes this season?
I didn't have any expectation. Again, you've read the books and stuff, so I know you've got kind of more on what storyline is to expect. I'm just happy they keep giving us the show. I mean, they wait almost until every season to talk about its renewal, so you never know how much more of it that you're going to get. So I know this season there was a bunch of questions that were up in the air on how they would handle it. I'm just thrilled to have it. And with 6 episodes, hey, they can do tight storytelling and give us a lot in 6 hours. That's 3 movies. It's a trilogy right there. It's a movie trilogy for you.
And they are calling it the final season. And I think that's what they know for now. I don't think they have any firm plans. But
I think we'll get into that when we jump into the first scene, maybe.
But I've heard from a lot of people. I got a few comments saying that they don't think the season's going to be as good, or the show's gone downhill since it went to Amazon, which is an opinion I totally cannot get behind and do not agree with. But as far as the reduced season of 6 episodes, and I was watching it, the showrunner Noreen Shankar and the authors of the novels, who are also producers of the show, Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, a discussion with them, and they were talking about how they didn't decide 6 episodes, that was an agreement made between Amazon and Alcon, and so they had to go and rewrite the season, their outline. At least they only had an outline at this stage, but their plans for 6 episodes instead of 10. And they said that they were happy with it. Like they said, it's not too condensed. They said if they had any less than 6 episodes, it would have been too little. They said if they had 13 episodes, it would have been too much. So they were happy with the 6. They said that they got it. And I think it is just going to be a tighter season. And I think there's always, even though I love The Expanse, it's my favorite show. I always talk about how much I love it. I think there is always fluff. And there is always things to be reduced. Now, I did complain about how they compressed book 3 into 6 episodes, because that was my favorite book.
Right.
But I feel like it would work here, because a lot of the book 6 stuff they already pushed forward to season 5. So I feel like they don't actually need that much to cover book 6, and that they could do it in 6 episodes. And I honestly think if they had 10 episodes, we would just get a bunch of filler, basically.
Yeah, we would always have, what was it in season 2, the engine episode, where they just
my god. Yeah, or in season 1, where they had the episode with that rock hopper who was being harassed by the Martians or whatever.
There's always extra stuff that's fun to see. I mean, if they wanted to go 10 episodes, I'd be perfectly happy with 10 episodes, fluff and all. But I think they can tell the story in this, and the fact that they have, an hour, that's a lot of story time. That's a lot of storytelling to be able to squeeze into that time period. So I think they can do that.
Yeah, and a lot of people complained about season 5 that the dragged on for the last couple episodes with Naomi being captured in a ship or whatever. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that, as I said, but it's going to be more pleasing for those people. It's going to be much more tight. I don't think it's going to be I think it's ridiculous. Anyone who thinks it's going to be comparing it to Game of Thrones season 8, it's not going to be like that at all.
But I think that they're going to trade it out with giving us some spectacle as well. So I think we will have something tasty probably within each episode to really kind of feast on and enjoy both visually and storytelling wise.
And all that being said, I do feel like this episode felt like a normal season premiere. Like it didn't seem like jam packed or exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you got to do that. And in fact, they can't rush too much into it because then it will feel rushed. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this episode as a whole?
As a whole, I enjoyed it. You're right. It's the season premiere episode, and every show it lays out the exact same way. You have to tell people where we are from where we last saw them, and set all the pieces up and in their place, and what their general directions and initial tensions and story drives are going to be. It always feels a little plotted because it kind of has to be. I think they moved things well. I think we still, again, got some good storytelling. We got some action. I think we got pulled into the story very quickly. There was little I was annoyed about. In fact, I rewatched it just before we jumped on here. And outside of skipping a couple of little points just for time wise, I was still like, yeah, I want to eat up every little moment and still finding little bits to enjoy. So I think for a final season kickoff, I think that they've done the best that they could, and I'm intrigued to see where they're going next.
So Brandon says it was 47 minutes and 4 seconds for the first episode. I thought it was shorter. I thought I remember seeing like 41 minutes on my timer. Maybe I was wrong about that, but it did seem like a really short episode to start with.
Well, I mean, you have your opening, you have the Laconia bit, and then you have your bit of news position, Clone Wars style. Well, not quite Clone Wars style in the beginning. So by the time you get to actual story, you might get around 41 minutes or so on that. But I mean, I think that they're setting everything up again, which is what their season premiere is all about.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the specifics of the episode. Let's start with that opening scene. And Darrin, I just want to hear your take. Just someone who hasn't read the books, maybe you've heard about this, but what did you make of that opening scene?
It was cute. It was intriguing. And I think overall for this season, almost completely pointless. Except for one thing, and that is to let everybody know we're going to get to it. I know we're saying it's the final season, but I think both including the scene in the trailer and having it be the opening scene in this is just their way of saying we're going to get to it. There's even a mention later on between Amos and Holden when Holden's focusing on stuff that happened at the ring, and he's like, I need you to focus on these things. I think that's Holden bringing that up just to let people know also we're going to get to it. So to me, just knowing that there is something else that happens, that there are further books, and this is sort of what it's alluding to, it was intriguing. I can't see how that has anything to do with what's happening with Marcos and the battle for the belt and all of that stuff. So to me, that was just a gift for the audience to go, we just want to let you know we're thinking about it. We're going to get to it. It's just not what we're doing this season. Hold on.
so but you understood where they were.
I got there was Laconia. I got that. I mean, again, it was something I was sort of looking forward to. And also from the trailer, I think it kind of prepped me for it as well. So I got what it was. But that's, again, I know nothing of the story. I just know that is a thing later on. And that's really what I pulled from it.
Okay. Well, without giving any specifics, I can explain this a little bit more in vague terminology, if you don't mind. If you don't
Sure,
mind being
sure.
all right. So
Elucidate us.
this is going to be an ongoing storyline throughout the season. So this was just the first scene, because they're telling, this is a short story that they're adapting. So the short story takes place at this time period. I think it was released between books 6 and 7, if I remember correctly. And so they're adapting a short story, so they're going to slowly disseminate it throughout the season.
Right.
And it does have absolutely nothing to do with Marco and what's going on in the rest of the show. But it is mainly like, so it is its own short story, but it is mainly setting up, like it becomes very relevant in the future books.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that, honestly, I would be intrigued for them to continue to tell this little tale, even, and if the fact that it is a short story and they could squeeze it in as like the opener to every episode or something like that. That would be awesome. I'm intrigued. I want to know more. I just didn't attach any expectation to it. That you tell me, that just makes me go, oh, cool, something more to enjoy, as opposed to going, whether it was useful or useless or anything like that.
So I read part of that short story before, but I went back and read the whole thing like a couple days ago, and it is powerful. It is a very powerful short story. So I thought it was very dark too. So it's going to be interesting. In fact, I heard the showrunner, Naren Shankar, kind of like admitted, yeah, this really has nothing to do with anything else that's going on this season, but he like really liked the short story. Like it was one of the first ones he read, because it was written while they were working on the show. It was like back in season 2 or 3 or something. And so it was one of the first things he read. He said he loved it. He just wanted to adapt it. And also to give the audience a taste, since they're not going to get anything really proto-molecule related much going in the other storyline.
Right. No, and it's nice to kind of keep that on. And again, it keeps the hook, so that when it's done, we as the audience are like, well, we want to see what else is happening there. What's going on? What does this all allude to? Please, movies.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know. I feel like them including this in the season does kind of like is like a way of pushing maybe other buyers or sellers, but like we want to do more, or at least maybe they're just setting themselves up just in case they do more, or maybe they already know they're going to do more, they're just not legally allowed to say.
Yeah, I would go maybe a little more towards your latter than the former.
Yeah, you think so? I mean,
I think
there's
there's a plan. I mean, again, just that they're alluding to this, it's your final season, and you're going to take time to tell a short story that takes place between the end of this and the next book. That is an intricate. I mean, again, you're laying the groundwork. I think it's also maybe a way to set up things so they can, if instead of a series, they do a movie or a 2-part movie or something like that, depending on whatever the structure that they will tell the story. I think it'll set up a lot of things so that when they move on to it, they don't have to do a lot of exposition. They don't have to do a lot of preset. Yeah. They can get into it faster, like you need to do with that type of storytelling.
And I've heard a lot of people who are very against the idea of movies for the last 3 books, but for me, that's better than nothing. Like I'd rather get a crammed movie, and I think with these, especially books 7 and 8, I think they can fit it and do it well within the movie. Book 9, which I'm reading now, maybe not so much, but yeah, that's I think I'm really hoping for movies. And so the short story that they're doing here is called Strange Dogs, which is the name of the episode, so they named the episode after it. And so I expected to see more of the storyline in this episode, and they just did so little. And I guess just that little opening scene, just the weird you out, I guess, at first.
It's all just to tease us. It's all just to tease us.
It was really beautiful too. Like the way it was filmed, the effects and everything like that. I was super impressed with.
Well, and that's another thing. There's a couple of shots we'll get to when we get into the storyline, but you have a less episode count, but generally that means you are going to have more spectacle and effects. You will have more money to spend on things. It's just not enough for a larger season. It's like, do you tighten it up and give you something spectacular, or do you stretch it out and, just have a lot of dialogue and hallway shots? And I again, former, let's go that direction rather than the latter. There's enough shows that do a lot of hallway discussions.
Yeah, I think I heard that their most expensive episodes were episode 1 and episode 6. So this episode and the finale, which they filmed together apparently they filmed the finale together with this episode. So before they filmed the other episodes, and they said they blew like most of their budget just on those 2 episodes.
What is hallway discussions for the rest of the season? Okay, well that's good. That's good to know. It's good
until we get to the finale.
It's like Stargate. They just keep walking through that one same hallway all the time in different directions.
So yeah, just want to jump in the chat, say hello to Brandon, Alex, and Norman. So good to see you all here. So Alex says, personally, I'd prefer a sequel TV series. I mean, yes, I would prefer that too, but if it depends on whether or not it's viable, whether or not it's an option. What I'm just saying is I would prefer TV movies to nothing. Like if a new revival series isn't, and plus I don't want to wait 30 years. Like if we can get movies sooner, then yes, do that. But now a lot of people were talking about that their contract is going to expire with Amazon in a couple years. So they're thinking Alcon's kind of waiting for that to expire, and then they're gonna shop elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. The inner workings of movie and television production, especially for streaming services, is kind of a big mystery to me. Sometimes they'll throw a lot of money at something hoping it will hit, and then something that just has a strong cult following, if not larger, they decide, well, it's played on long enough. I think it's short-sighted. I think this is a show that will have a lot of replay value. So building up its library for future use, I think is a smart choice as well. But again, who knows what decisions they're making and why?
But the funny thing is like when it was canceled on Sci-Fi, the showrunners were all bummed. Everyone was attached to the show was all bummed out and freaked out. It's like, oh, I guess the show's over. But now they're kind of like, they seem cool with it. So that makes me think they know more about what's going on.
Well, yeah. And I think that there's enough of an audience for this show that I think will keep it persistent for a while, so that if they do have to wait a little bit and then jump back into the storytelling for whatever reason, I think that they'll still have an audience that will be clamoring for it, if not pushing even harder at that point. So, it could just be a game of how much they want it, how much to demand. If we pull it away, how much will the audience gravitate towards it? Because look, streaming services need the content now, and they can't, give them something that even a few people like versus just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
True. Yeah, absolutely. Now, and Alex in the chat said it's hard for shows to run 6 to 7 seasons, and even when they're doing well, which is generally speaking true. But then there's other shows that just keep going and won't stop. Walking Dead. Excuse me.
Well, oh my God, a CSI, a Law and Order, old people's unit. At this point, I can't believe that NCIS has been on for 20 years. I couldn't get through 5 minutes of an episode. No,
I hate that. And what did like Supernatural get? I'd never even heard of that show until recently. It's got like 15
years.
But no, it is. Yeah, it is true though that 6 to 7, generally speaking, is hard to get. But still, there's like when you think like shows like The Expanse clearly deserves more, and these other shows that clearly don't get more.
Well, I think it's also different when you have strong source material that you are adapting versus, especially old time when you had 22 seasons of material to come up with. I mean, you're hitting 100
Yes.
episodes in 5 years. Of course, you're going to have your filler episodes and your flashback stuff there. You have to.
Yeah.
I think adapting this, kind of like Game of Thrones for most of the run, was extremely strong and could have even gone further. I mean, one, if George R. R. Martin had ever finished a book, but the fact that they had something to pull off of in a way and tell those stories. I think it's different when you have a bunch of material you have to just keep making up on the fly and regurgitating.
I mean, The Expanse has the advantage over Game of Thrones because, first of all, the authors are producers, writers on the show, and secondly, they finished the books.
yeah. You know where you're going at that point. It helps to have that roadmap.
Yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the next part of the episode. Let's talk about my good old friend Marco. You like how that guy, like, he seemed to just randomly, like when Marco walked up in the series, he seemed to just randomly come up and started doing that.
Yeah, that's it. He was just, okay, we're starting it up. Let's go.
And everyone else is like weirded out. Well, I guess we should join in. Anyway, so they kind of present the situation I was kind of getting at last year, but they didn't really tell us this last year, that Marco is pretty much ruling the outer planetary systems. He's pretty much got free reign. He's got the UNN fleet pinned down on Earth, trying to stop all those rocks that are thrown at it, which we'll get to later. But they're stuck there, and so they can't go out and fight Marco. And Mars has pretty much lost half their fleet to the traders that went to Laconia, and so they can't really do much about him either. So he's pretty much having free reign and doing whatever he likes out in the belt. And it's interesting that one thing I thought was interesting, I mentioned in my review, is that he's kind of becoming as bad as an oppressor as the Inners were, because, Ceres needed all this resources, and he's also bored. It's like, I don't give a fuck about your resources. And has his advisor, I think Rosenfeld was her name, if I remember correctly. She was like pushing, let's supply our military installations. Let's make sure Medina is well stocked. We don't really need to worry about these civilians. So it is this irony that he's sold this revolution and sold all these people to support him by the fact that we got to knock off our oppressors and we got to become independent, and yet he immediately just becomes just as bad as the oppressors and starts treating them like shit too, which I think is based off of a lot of real life examples of revolutionaries and dictators. And so that hit true to me. I think, and I thought that that made a lot of sense and was totally in character for the kind of guy that Marco is. Your thoughts on this one?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that was a beautiful little bit of, after Philip's little initial conquest scene, because we'll get into Philip, but is that we really do see what type of leader Marcos basically is. And he is a military leader, perhaps, but he doesn't really care about the people in the same way of, say, Fred Johnson or Dawes or anything, which he specifically points out, he's dead because I was tired of listening to his drabble. And it's like, well, yeah, but this is the actual realities of leading. And again, and I think it was a perfect short scene to show, like you're saying, where the differences are. He's there to be the leader and to walk around and to, push Earth away and to revel in its thing, to have, people blowing up ships because it makes him happy and things like that. That is the type of leader that he wants. He is craving the attention. He doesn't care. It's not that he doesn't care, but it is by no means his primary focus is on actually taking care of the people of the belt. He wants, well, like you said, he just wants to lead them.
But no, it was interesting because he even stated like that when he was saying that he was bored and he wanted to see action again, like because actually being a politician or bureaucrat does not interest him at all. He doesn't actually care about making sure the belt thrives or that's fed. He just wants to blow shit up.
Yeah.
Basically, and so he's a horrible leader. But as I said, I think that's very true. There's a lot of real life examples that are similar to that.
Well, no, and it makes for a much more interesting conflict. If he was there being a Fred Johnson or Anderson Dawes, you know, and taking care of stuff and planning and like, okay, great, we're going to be 20% up for agriculture next year, and we're going to increase our water filtration and production systems. You know, we as an audience certainly would probably be a lot more bored, but there wouldn't be as much of a conflict if he's out there doing it well. This shows us where people can start to find the chinks in his armor and start to sort of claw truth in and get in. I mean, and that's the delicious part of this. And we really get to see how that is fracturing already through his family and the people around him.
Yeah, now I do want to get into Philip in a second, but first of all, I got to mention poor Anderson Dawes. Dies off screen.
I know.
Now, I did hear that Ty Frank mentioned in one of his podcasts that Jared Harris, and I forgot his name from my review, but I remember it now. Jared Harris, amazing actor, that he actually is friends with people involved with The Expanse, that he wanted to do The Expanse. His schedule just never lets him. He's always busy. I think when they're filming this, he was doing Foundation or whatnot, which I didn't even bother watching that. Who wants to get Apple Plus? I don't want to get Apple Plus, but anyway,
it came with the frame.
Yeah. All right. I don't have any Apple products. Anyway, so it's not that he didn't want to do The Expanse, he really did, but he's just unavailable. And I was still holding out hope that they fit him in the season, but this is very clear that they couldn't get him. So I think, considering that, this probably makes sense to just draw out a line to mention he's dead. So at least we know. I mean, it would have been cool to see it, but I think if they tried to film it without Jared Harris or try to get a replacement for him, that would have been worse.
It's a shot in the distance from the back, security camera shot, all grainy. No, you're right. Well, you would have. He's always a great actor to see, and I could see where he would be relishing to really get a chance to play this. No, give it a line. It's not the best, but it does serve to, again, quickly establish what kind of leader Marcos is, where his heart and his concerns actually are. And the fact that he, in fact, says it with such a flamboyant, like, I was tired of hearing him talk about this type of stuff, stupid agricultural things.
That really illustrates just how incompetent Marco is compared to Dawes as well. I mean, Dawes wasn't the greatest guy either. He was a bit of an egotist as well, but at least he had actual concern about the belters and stuff, where it's making it clear that Marco does not.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, this is where opportunity for our heroes will start to manifest.
Now, also it's interesting the way that Marco dismissed Philip, because Philip, he seemed to be in the right place where he was telling Rosenfels, like, no, you said Ceres is the capital. You got to take care of Ceres. You got to feed them. And then Rosenfeld's like, oh, so what are the exact logistical things? And she's like, I don't know, just do it. And then Marco's like, let's talk in private, and just brush Philip off. But Philip has his own shit going on, obviously, as well. He's definitely being eaten alive by the guilt of having done what he done, participated in the mass genocide on Earth, and it's starting to eat him up. And I think that is in large part due to Naomi and her words to him the previous season, because she just was telling him, this is going to hit you. You don't know when, but it's going to hit you. He's like, no, fuck that. I'm a big belter, defeated the Earthers. But now you can see it is starting to hit him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was most interesting in the scene. Of course, he's trying to drown out his guilt and sorrows and a lot of sex, which makes sense.
Sure.
And then that's that scene where they were like him and his friend were making out with these chicks, and it made like the chick want him more. The fact that he murdered all these people and that didn't sit right with him, and he felt like he was going to throw up and just left. And of course, ended up throwing a huge temper tantrum when he got rejected by the bartender, which led to him just shooting his friend and just killing his friend over that. Like that. What were your words? What are your thoughts on this one?
It's certainly not a way to assuage your guilt over genocide as then killing your friend. I think that's not really a way to do it. No, I think you're right. This is when the excitement is there, you can hide things. When the adrenaline is running, that's what your focus is. 6 months later, when Earth is pinned down and there's nothing to do but to drink and screw and miss meetings, is when, those quiet moments, that's when the guilt and the thoughts all come in. And I think, this is a completely expected way to do it. I agree. If it's not good that Marcos dismissed him, but I think they established pretty well that he has a habit of showing up late to meetings and not paying attention. And so that's why, when he was like, "What'd I miss?" Nothing you didn't already, really miss, same as always. I think at that point, then having Philip try to pop up and be like, "Well, let me tell you how to run this thing later on." It's like, "Oh, okay, smart guy. We should just fix this. How should we fix this? Do you have any ideas?" No, because you don't pay attention. Go away, boy. Go away.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that all that is true, but I think Philip is actually growing a conscience.
Oh no, he's totally right. You're correct.
Yes. Yeah, and he and yes, part of the reason Marco is dismissing him is because he's blatant and never shows up and not doing his fucking job anyway. But in the general sense, like Phillips is completely right. Like they should do what they said they were going to do and actually help the Belters and support them, and not just become, a military organization that's going to let the people starve so they can get their military built up.
Well, and that was, I think, that nice point of your random guy shouting Marco there in the hallway. Was that gave a moment for Philip to start to see that, his dad is exactly the way his mom described him. Everything his mom told him is coming true. His dad doesn't care for anything. He doesn't care about the belt. He only cares about himself. And you can see that as he dismisses the needs of the people and just, will take all their adulations. Ceres has always been home to me. What? They're causing us problems? All right, let's get out of here. We screw this place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do get a sense, like last season, like when he needed Philip, he was buttering him up and saying, "Oh, you're going to be the best of the belt. You're hero of the belt. You're going to be amazing." Now he doesn't need Philip. He's like, go away. You're just annoying."
Well, not much of a, he's not really much of a father. He's been there, but that's only because he took him from his mom. It's always been about a power position from him. And hopefully, I'm curious to see how this fracture will start to develop, and if Philip can turn around and do something, to try and make up for some of his choices.
Now, do you think that his friend that he shot, is he dead? I wasn't sure about that, but
I didn't even see on his blood or a bullet hole or anything. And on the rewatch, I paid more attention. I was like, is it a bulletproof crocodile jacket or alligator vest there? So I mean, and that could just be a whatever effect. I didn't see it was dark. It's blood. It's there. It takes a moment to really bleed out. It doesn't like spurt everywhere. I hope he's not dead, but I think from a storytelling standpoint, that's kind of what has to happen, because he has to have the guilt and he has to have that extra push, and maybe to see how his father reacts. Are they going to cover up? Is he just going to pay for it? How is that going to play?
Oh, crocodile jacket guy, we barely knew you.
He'll show up in a dream sequence doing a musical bit in episode 4. No, please no, don't do that.
All right. So, any more thoughts on the belt before we move on?
No, again, I think that we're setting up our Marco doesn't really care. He just wants to fight. Philip is falling apart, and now he's got extra guilt at least to deal with.
But it's also putting a situation where he's like in complete and total control, where they're presenting him as a almost impossible obstacle to try to overcome. That he's basically winning at the moment.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I mean that does. You have to put him up on that pedestal in order to take him down. And I think it's a much more interesting. I have to say, Marco annoyed me much less this episode than he did kind of in last season, and maybe just because he's now becoming what I expected him to be, But no, I think this is the proper place to put him because you have to have something for everyone to struggle against.
Well, I still think he's a great villain. But anyway, let's go ahead and get over into drama. Kamina, her whole thing with this is the one thing I think I was disappointed in this episode, that it seems like they're going to get rid of Michio, which I'm actually kind of disappointed by. I know she's barely a character. We barely know. She's just one of Drummer's family. But last year, Drummer had 6 people in her family, including her, I think. And then one of them got killed, and the other 2 left. So it's down to 3. And now they're going to leave another one. So it's just going to be her and that one guy. I'm like, I kind of feel like she needs to have more people around her. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible that they could find a way to keep her on the show, and this is just going to be a storyline saying that that she's not like hacking and she's not used to this lifestyle. But I didn't get that impression about her in season 5. I thought she was just fine, but I don't know. They don't care.
They seem to have done it. I mean, it was funny because when I was watching, I was talking with my wife about it, and I was like, no, I mean, she can't hack it. She's not made for this life. And then like the next scene, we have the guys telling Drummer, yeah, she's not made for this. I was like, that's exactly what I said.
I mean, but did you get that impression just from this episode where she fucked up, or did you get that impression from the previous season?
No, it's definitely, I think, again, one of those, this is the 6 month, this is the long toll. People are different. What they point out is that she's a salvage, person. She's not a soldier. He's been able to adapt and she has not. Now, I don't think dismissing her is right. I mean, I know it's a tight crew, but there's got to be another position you could put on her as opposed to the one that's got to hit the button at the right time in order to go.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, why get rid of her entirely? Because who else is going to push that button? Just have them do it instead anyway, and have her do something else that's not going to be so intensive.
Now, it could be the fact that, it's a small crew and everybody has to do multiple jobs and you have to be able to handle the thing, or they'll, I can make up reasons. I could see understandings of where they'd want to go. But yeah, that's my thought is like, just give her a different job. She just doesn't have that. She could be back in repairs or, damage control or something like that, where it's not quite as tense. On the other hand, again, from a storytelling standpoint, what did they mention? Now they don't have missiles. They've got to go to Triton. It's a long way off. They've got to find a place to drop her off. So what we're doing is we're giving motivations for them to go somewhere for something to happen.
Yeah.
It's
Triton, by the way, is a moon of Neptune. So that's like in the scale of the Expanse, that's way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. That's
sure. That's back by the ring. Isn't the ring up by there?
Yeah. And so there pretty much no other, very little colonies. It's just a research station because it's like out in the far reaches of the system. Mm-hmm. So, and that's proving just how impossible their situation is. How they talked about going to Iapetus first, which is a moon of Saturn, and they're like, no, there's too many eyes. We can't even do that. And Saturn's not even anywhere near the belt. So even that situation, there's still there's they're pretty fucked. Like they're like hanging on the thread, which in that case,
Is it?
yeah, Iapetus is one of Saturn's moons. Triton is one of Neptune's. But um, anyway, what was I saying? Pretty sure it
They've got to
might.
go a
Is
good
someone correct me?
distance.
Right? Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure about that.
Triton, it's Neptune.
Neptune, yeah, and Iapetus is Saturn. Yeah, okay. So, but yeah, either way, this shows the impossible situation that they're in, and that might be why they're getting rid of Michio, because they're just so screwed anyway. Maybe they feel like they're sparing her.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's this. I mean, I get the idea of she shouldn't be on a warship if she is not really ready to fight and be for war. I mean, I get the general idea on that. I don't think that it's, especially since they are kind of very much on their own. I mean, if they let her go somewhere, you got to stash her, because if anybody from the Free Army or the Free Navy finds that she's there and links her to Drummer, they'll use her either as punishment or as bait. You know, she will become a tool. So, I mean, in some ways, yeah, if she's not made for fighting, why have her? On the other hand, if you cut her loose, you're kind of seriously cutting her loose.
I mean, she does make that promise, like, "Oh, we'll come back when it's over." She's like, "Yeah, when it's over."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
When's that gonna happen?
We've all heard that before. Been left stations in the middle of nowhere. I'll be back for you.
Now,
I
did want to
personal trauma.
So I did want to ask if you got a chance to watch that little 5-minute vignette.
I could not find it. I did
really?
go to look. I looked on the bonus content and I just saw still pictures.
Let me ask, were you on a smart TV?
No, I was on my Xbox, which is
Xbox.
All my stuff.
Okay.
So maybe it's their app is wrong, but
yeah, I might have to do it from the laptop.
Okay.
Because I heard that people couldn't really get to it from the smart TVs. So I don't know about Xbox. It could be the same thing.
It could be a similar app design for accessing. Sorry, folks. What we are talking about here is there is a little 5-minute short film thing that goes with the episode that you should be able to access through the bonus content in the X-ray section if you hit pause. But it didn't work for me. Try it through your laptop or desktop as opposed to the app. Maybe it'll work.
So I wanted to talk about, do you mind if I spoil it for you?
No. Go right in. I'll just watch it afterwards.
Because it's about this storyline. It shows Drummer and Joseph and Michio. And basically it's Michio sort of hacked Drummer's personal hand terminal and looked at her files and noticed that she's watching and rewatching all the all of Naomi's messages, that she's obsessed with Naomi, that she's not watching anything having to do with her or the other people, Oxwana or the other people who are left, that she's like, she doesn't really love us that much. She just loves Naomi. And apparently it's showing that she actually has a crush, romantic feelings towards Naomi, and is obsessed with her, which I think is a pretty interesting twist. And that sort of explains, and it does explain why she double-crossed Marco last season, because she couldn't bear to let Naomi die. And part of the clips that she watches a message from Naomi where she thanks her for saving Holden and betraying Marco at the end. But it makes me wonder why they didn't just team up with her immediately, and why they're just running away from Marco instead. But I think that has more to do with plot contrivance. But that's just my guess.
Again, it does add a certain level of tension. That is cool. I will be excited to go and check that out. And it does add an interesting little layer to it, and some motivation of maybe why Drummer's making some of these choices now than what you would expect with the other information out there. It does not surprise me that she is fixated with Naomi, thank you. I think that they were there was a very obvious kind of connection between the two of them. To me, it's kind of exciting. Like, yeah, she should still have that because she seemed to have dropped that very quickly. So yeah, and that would be a cool little bit. I'm kind of curious if, like you said, they're going to be adding these little 5-minute bits to each episode. Are they going to follow this similar story, or are they going to jump from different type of stuff? I'm curious, but I like, to me, this is interesting information that I find much more.
Well, it's funny because I was going back and watching the podcast from Ty Frank, one of the authors, producers this show, does with the guy who plays Amos.
Yeah, Ty and that guy. Yeah.
When they go back and they do, they've been doing all the early episodes of the seasons, and when they did the finale of season 3, they talked about how they purposely set up this love triangle between drummer Naomi and Holden, and I totally did not notice that. And they also said that that's not based off of the books or anything. The writers came up that they just saw that the actresses who played Naomi and drummer had this natural chemistry, and they just went.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's great. To me, that's when variation off the book, is good. When you find something, when you see some magic being developed on the screen in front of you and some character interaction, go with that. That is a story screaming to be told. And if you don't do it, then the audience will see it and go, are they purposely avoiding this? Are they not telling us for one thing? Is this being cheap? Oh my God, are they not listening? Is it the corporate hacks that are telling them they can't go into that? People will go with stuff. I think it's kind of exciting to recognize that when you see that in performances, and for that to feed into future storytelling, I think is always a really good choice.
So I want to say hello to Allison. Allison, so great to see you. Also, I believe Jeremiah showed up, and Gabe, good to see you all. So yeah, Jeremiah was saying looking forward to the Telltale game. I usually don't play Telltale games or computer games in general, but I might make an exception for the Expanse.
How much Amos will be in it? That'll determine whether I play it or not.
And Allison also mentions that they had the same problem with content of the Wheel of Time, and they ended up putting those in the bonus segments in the main menu rather than on the X-ray thing, and hopefully they'll do the same for the Expanse. So hopefully they will, so that people like you can actually watch them.
I haven't pulled out my computer, darn it.
Yeah. I think Alex mentioned you could do it on your phone too, but who wants to watch something on your phone? I don't know.
It's harder to share that with other people. Come on, let's cloister around our phone, boys and girls. It'll be fun.
Yeah. All right. So, any more thoughts on drummer? Anything I forgot to mention?
No. Again, it's a pretty simple, straightforward stuff. Just kind of setting up their need and where they've got to go next.
All right, so let's go next to the Rosnate. So this group's a bit demoralized. It kind of reminds me a lot of the start of season 3, where they all were in a bad mood and didn't like each other because there is a war going on. They were on the run, but Naomi betrayed them, and now they're been fighting in the war going on and demoralized and tired because Amos brought in Clarissa Peaches without anyone's permission. And that's sort of creating tension. She's kind of been just hiding in the machine shop behind Amos and only socializing with him. The others kind of ignoring her like she doesn't exist. And Naomi's obviously going through her own shit because she's feeling guilty. She blames herself for Alex's death, which of course is a huge change from the novels, but they gotta do it. But it makes sense for the story that they set up in the show that she felt like his death was her fault because he was trying to rescue her. And the fact that they're hunting down all the people, Belters, that she'd known and worked with her whole life is also really getting to her.
Sure.
And so you get that intense scene, like with a scene where Holden almost like was on the planet, like almost got blown up, and the driver's just like hammering it down, where Naomi was like literally like freaking out, like she was having a panic attack. She just couldn't deal with the fact of losing Holden after losing Alex. And then, of course, that big confrontation that she had with Amos, because Amos is like, why don't you just give Peaches a break? And she's like, well, I think you should be somewhere else. So the two of them are really, coming to head. And it seems like you also get tension between Amos and Holden as well, because Holden was like trying to show him that weird thing that happened to the Martian ship going to Laconia. And Amos is like, well, that's not really any of our business. So like, and it's interesting to hear Amos say, like, I would have just been drinking myself silly and Luna. The only reason I'm here is for you. So you need to be here for me. So it's just tension all around. Now, and in some ways it does seem like they're retreading ground because it is similar to season 3, but it makes a lot of sense. And they've been at it for 6 months, basically not making any progress, just like attacking ship, and just winning these small battles that amount to nothing. And they feel like they're not making a difference. So yeah, so I can see why they would be demoralized. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, well, that pretty much covered all of that right there. No, I again, I like the setup. It does make sense. Like you said, it's 6 months on. There's a little bit of tension going on. Peaches hasn't been accepted as maybe they were kind of Amos was kind of hoping would just naturally sort of happen. What's going on with Naomi totally makes sense with her sort of personal conflicts. Holden is always looking at the bigger picture. He's concerned about, protomolecules and everything that's going on. That's what makes him a good captain and what makes him, keep an eye on all of these things. So yeah, I think where they have chosen the conflicts and the tension to be makes sense. And again, just really the burnout of doing this for a long period of time. I think that setup works really well. I did find the scene between Amos and Naomi really interesting because I think Amos was totally right, because Naomi has put them in serious jeopardy and has made some big things on what to do with the protomolecule and all these types of stuff without considering anyone. Amos just brought someone on board, who isn't like isn't some mysterious alien thing or isn't possibly going to shift the balance of power in the belt. So I think he does have a point. However, to me, the more interesting thing is the fact that we have these two characters that were so close for so long, now at odds. To me, that's what's interesting. Where are they going to go with this? How is this going to further develop? The fact that she does tell him, like, I think you should find somewhere else to be. You mean like right now on the ship or like off the ship entirely? Because that shouldn't really be your call to make. Because again, they're all on the plaque. They're all equally part of the ship, So I do like a lot of the conflict that was done there. They had a couple of really nice shots through all this too. When Amos goes outside on the Rocinante and they do the tracking shot of him as the ship sort of rotates and he just walks around. That was a really cool bit. Rotates all the way around until the drone heads up to go to there and then it follows him out. I mean, those were just nice little moments. The heads up display on Holden's spacesuit, when he goes down to open up the navigational computer, it's kind of like a video game, but it would make sense too. Okay, blink, blink. This is the thing you're looking for. Blink, blink. And this is the entry port for it. I mean, it does make sense as this would be the future technology and things that you could use, but it's also just cool to see. Good. I don't have to try and figure this out. Computers will help me get to the shorthand of it. The metal bouncing off of the drive for the magnetic bubble turning on. I mean, God, what a beautiful visual on that thing. and Holden,
It was just really good at building tension too. It was such a great tension building. Just all of a sudden, you just pong, 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 pong. It was just I love that.
And yes, there is no sound in space, folks. That was really for us, but it worked really well. A micro atmosphere around asteroids. Yeah, so I mean, all of that was good. And yeah, when Naomi is freaking out over the comms, when Holden is pounding the heck out of that thing, really on a second viewing also was just really cool. I'm glad they didn't show her freaking out, but you just get that rising visual or audio kind of build in the background. I think was really tense. Was really cool. It was a real way to kind of maintain that scene and keep the focus where it needed to be, which was on Holden and by the drive. So yeah, I'm excited where they put things up, and I'm excited. I like that again. Their different skills are coming together, with Naomi being able to help track down the spotter ship. You know, hey, this thing is tied to this, so I had this idea. Which of these satellites have recognized these frequencies? Okay, and where did they go? And be able to track down the whole kind of orbit thing. Again, a great way to quickly get us focused on the main story of where we're going in a smart way that makes sense for the characters.
So Alex says that in the chat, Alex409 says the creators have said that space sound is just another version of music for the viewers. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good excuse to me. Damn, not following science correctly. But I mean, you can make that same argument for like Star Wars and stuff like that. But
yeah. Again, and I think it's fun. Honestly, the sound design on this show is one of my favorite things. The rocketry and the ship sounds and all of that. Really, everything sounds so appropriate. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't care that there was I knew there wasn't ding. I just, again, it worked from a tension building standpoint.
Yes, it absolutely did. Yeah, I don't think.
And if it was quiet, if it was just sitting there going, and you heard nothing, you would have started laughing. So let's be honest about that.
There are times where the Expanse can use silence in space for a dramatic effect too. That the use of but as you say, I'm willing to go with it. Sure. And I did want to say hello to Grant. Says that you loved, you really like our channel. So thank you so much. It's really good to see you here. Saying Dan and Dave should be up in at court for crimes against Game of Thrones. I'm not going to disagree with you there. All right. So then they discover that there is a ship that is guiding all the rocks in, and if they can find the ship, they can stop them from doing it. And they starting to devise a plan to come up with. So it looks like we're getting our sort of build in for what the Rossi is going to be like going season 4, because I think it's interesting to start them in the place after where it's been 6 months and they're tired and they're not making any progress. But now that the season started, they got to do something more interesting.
Now it's going. Oh, one other thing I did want to mention. I love the banter between Amos and Peaches. There is I love the relationship that obviously they really have kind of developed over time, and that I'm waiting for the point where it's Peaches that's going to have to save Naomi and the rest of the Rossi with all the skills that Amos has taught her. I'm looking forward to that moment. But I love just the little bits between them that we can see throughout this time. She has learned a lot, and he's been a very supportive teacher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is still interesting that it seems like Holden has the most legitimate one to have concerns or grudge against Clarissa, because she tried to kill him and killed a bunch of people to try to frame him for murder and all this other stuff. But she turned around and did the right thing eventually. But it's weird that Naomi is the one who has the bigger issue, but that's mainly because she's going through her own shit. We actually didn't see Holden address Clarissa at all in this episode, so it makes me think that he's just ignoring her, avoiding her. So it'll be interesting to see how that relationship develops, or if that develops at all.
Well, I think that's part of, and I think even the discussion about the ship disappearing through the ring, and that reminded him of Ellis. I think he is focusing on the immediate needs and the larger picture, and not even thinking about the ship. He's just fine, whatever. I'll let Amos take care of all of that stuff. I think it's just, again, it's a compartmentalization. And you're right, for Naomi, it's different because she's starting to frazzle. And so any kind of stimulus is going to get her fired off.
Yeah, and Alex makes a good point in the chat too that Clarissa did try to kill Naomi in season 3. There was that one where they had that fight, that really bloody fight.
Oh, that's
that
right.
Anna broke up with the taser. Anna saved her. I could see with Naomi not liking Clarissa either. but yeah, I mean, and plus they didn't really get to know her the way that Amos do. So maybe there's going to be some building of that this season. But definitely, what Clarissa is to Amos is basically he feels like he's guiding her the way that Holden and Naomi guided him in the earlier seasons when he was just a brute and lost. So it's a really interesting turn for Amos as well.
It's interesting in the X-ray section there on your Amazon Prime check. There's a descriptor where they do little descriptions of all the characters, and they described Amos as Amos is a monster who has decided to not be monstrous and to find people that help guide him towards a better light kind of way. And it's interesting, because that's sort of what he is. Now he is the monster teaching the next monster how not to be monstrous.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to our last storyline with a little Avasarala and Bobby Draper back on Earth. Here we get to see, again, it's similar to stuff I was thinking that season 5 didn't touch on enough. I don't think they really drilled home just how screwed Earth was, but they made that very clear. At the start of this episode, that they continues to throw rocks at Earth, and even though they shoot them down, the fragments still hit Earth. They're still killing the planet. I think they say with like every rock that hits Earth is killing it more and more. And there's a lot of issues going on. So she's dealing with the dying planet and the demoralized people who are trapped. And it's interesting. I always love the interactions between Avasarala and Bobby Draper. It's so great to see these two characters back together again.
They really do belong better. I mean, I love people on the Rossi. Don't get me wrong. I want Bobby back on the Rossi, but she does belong with Avasarala, And it's interesting because he's kind of like the new Cortez. Avasarala's old kind of spy buddy.
Courtier.
Thank you. Courtier. Yeah. She's kind of like the next generation of Courtier. And it's funny. They almost like had that handoff, on the ship where Courtier gives it to Bobby and says, watch her.
Yeah.
And now she's sort of filling his role for her.
But it's interesting that she's kind of filling the role as Avasarala's aide. And it is interesting that towards the end of the episode, they're like, "You really hate this job, don't you?" It's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll quit now. Don't worry about it."
Yes, I do hate this job. I'm not hiding it. Well, good. I want to go.
And it's also interesting seeing Monica Stewart too, where Monica Stewart was hounding Avasarala. It's like, "Oh, is it true? Why don't you negotiate with Marco? Why don't you bring things to the end? Blah blah blah." And Avasarala just walks away, and Monica tries to pursue, and Bobby gets right in front of her and says, "That's your cue to leave. This is over now." And I love what Monica Stewart said to Draper is like, I like you because you're so horrible at lying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, and again, it points out, but this isn't the role for Bobby. She's not there. She's a fighter. She's there to go get the bad guy, or the adversary, or the whatever, the alien, the thing. Belcher at this point, and not free Navy guy. So yeah.
Yeah, but it also made me think of that Bobby Draper and Monica Stewart had dealings before that. Draper helped save Monica Stewart's life back on the Ring Station season 3, so they have that acquaintance. But yeah, it was interesting seeing them again. I hope we get more Monica Stewart too.
Yeah, I gotta say, she is a character that has grown on me. Of course, when she first shows up, she's intending to be very annoying. And I think that she has definitely made good choices that makes me want to see more of her as a character. So
Avasarala comes up with a plan, which we don't know about. This episode was kind of irritates me. What's her plan? But it does have something to do with the spotter ship that the Rosnate detected that is guiding the Roxanne. So she's coming up with a plan to a big win to get everyone united. Is it as simple as just destroying the ship? Because I thought they were going to do that anyway. And how is that a big win? I hope there's more to it than that.
Well, there has to be more, because you're right. Yeah. While destroying the spotter ship would in a way be a big win, it's not a big symbolic thing. It's not one of those like, you just blew up Marco Inaris's flagship or something. That would be a big win. That seems to be more along the lines what she's thinking of.
But I suppose it'd be a big win in the sense that the fleet would no longer be trapped around Earth.
From a practical standpoint, yeah, but that's not really how she sold it. And again, if you already have the Rossi going after a ship, what do you need a Bobby Draper for? What do you need a Marine for in that sense? So that's why I'm thinking there has to be something else, but it's got to obviously build on top of this. Maybe she's thinking about taking the spotter ship and using that to infiltrate Inaros's navy or something.
Oh yeah, interesting. From the trailer, I can guess that it involves Bobby Draper going to the Rosinante.
Yeah, well, that's what we want to see.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like you were saying, I love seeing Bobby Draper with Avasarala, but we do really want to see her on the Rosinante kicking ass. I mean, come on.
yeah, exactly. One thing I did want to bring up, you had mentioned about the effects of the meteors hitting Earth, being thrown at Earth. I did like how that was sort of brought up, because you get the idea that it's just, one, you've got the impacts that's throwing enough dust in the air that it's creating a nuclear winter type effect, and that's killing all of the crops and preventing growth. But she did mention something about meteorite contamination, which I was curious about if that is something different, because I just thought that, the gathering of dust and stuff in the atmosphere is, having an adverse effect on the climate and the biosphere and everything. But I'm wondering if that was something different than like I said, there's asteroid contaminants are hitting us hard, are rising faster than we expected. What does that? I'm kind of curious. I don't know if there was anything else that was alluded to in the books or something on that.
No, I didn't catch that. No, I just thought there was reinforcing the whole nuclear winter thing with all the debris.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was enough for me. That was just, then she added that one little comment, and I was like, is this something else now? But
I don't know. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, is her big monologue speech about, we can't get these small things. We have to have big wins. And this is a total aside. It has nothing to do with the Expanse, but Halo Infinite, for all of you gamers out there, just dropped this week. And a not subtle at all through line in the story is all about hope. You give people hope. Now people know what hope feels like. And it's repeated over and over in the game, almost to an ad nauseum effect. I've only played it a few hours. I've got a few comments anyway, but besides, so it was just kind of funny when she brings up like people need to know what hope feels like. I was like, okay, this is not the fault of the show that I'm going to laugh at this line, but it's almost been overdone for me this week. Too much.
See, I'm not familiar with that, so my mind didn't go there. I was thinking more of like Rogue One, where they were like hammering home Leia saying, "Hope! This we're bringing a new hope. Get it, a new hope,
a new hope." Yeah. I mean, sure, I get the storyline tropes, and I get the things and the statements and the speeches that have to be made, and they have to be inspiring. But yeah, sadly, some of these tropes. Giving hope. We need to show what hope feels like. Got to have hope again. That is so heavily used. I don't know. Got to be cautious about that in the future, folks. All of you writers out there, watch over use of hope.
Oh, Brandon in the chat also brings up Discovery over using hope, which it does as well.
Yes, maybe I'll jump on and talk Discovery with you at a different stream.
All right, so I think that about covers it, unless you have anything else that I missed out or anything else you want to talk about.
No, we hit everything that was on my notes, so I think that pretty much hits up with me. Again, just really excited. I think this was a good setup. Yeah, in some ways a little plotting because you've got to set up all of your pieces and establish everything. But yeah, especially 5 episodes left at this point. I think we're going to have some real tight storytelling for the rest of the season.
I gotta be honest, being just a little bit worried, that they're gonna stick the landing with this. That maybe they're not gonna rush through it or whatever. But I have high hopes. Like, yeah, they've earned my trust so far.
Hey, if they already blew the budget on the last episode, at least we know that's going to be good, right? Yeah. That's how they were smart. We got to end it really well first, and then we'll figure out the way there.
Yeah, and they say it's going to be like they call it almost movie length, but they say it's like an hour and a half, I think, or something like that. So it's a extended episode.
That's like an extra episode right there. I mean, Hawkeye was doing like 37-minute episodes, so I mean. We got extra storyline here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap it all up, wrap things up as we're going. I want to thank everyone for joining. Allison, Brandon, what we got? Grant, I saw Jeremiah and Norman in the chat earlier. Thank you everyone for joining, everyone who's watching in the archives. Thank you so much for joining us. We shall be here, of course, every week to talk about the Expanse. Next week we'll be covering episode 2, and I do believe that my sister Alyssa will be joining us, so more people to talk about episode 2. So yeah, excited for that. So Darrin, if you want to give a shout out for what you're doing, and where people can find you.
Yeah, I'm Darrin Jakes. You can find me at Twitter and Instagram at Darrin Jakes is right there on your screen. My channel is D's Reviews. I'm right in the middle of doing a Hawkeye discussion. In fact, my show on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. And this week, Mark here will be joining us to talk episode 5, which is going to be a big one. So really excited about that. And of course, going to be here on Saturdays talking Expanse with Mark. So really excited about that. And then at the end of the month, moving in, we'll be talking Book of Boba Fett. So if you're Marvel, if you're a Star Wars fan, check out D's Reviews.
So there's not any overlap with Hawkeye and Book of Boba Fett, right? Does one end and the other start? Or?
Yeah, because there was going to be, but because they did the 2 episodes of Hawkeye that first night, it ends right before Christmas, and then in that following week is when Book of Boba Fett starts off. So yeah, it's going to end, and the following week, the next one will pick up.
Cool. So, yeah, my name is Mark. My channel is Enchantment of Eternity. If you're finding me for the first time, I do reviews on many Star Trek things. I cover The Expanse. This is one of my favorite shows, and several other shows as well. I think, as mentioned, we're doing Hawkeye over at Darren's channel later this week, and then back here to do Expanse live discussions every week for every episode. Sometime in the end of December, before December's over, we're thinking between Christmas and New Year's, I'll be doing a live discussion with Alyssa about Star Trek Voyager. We started doing our Voyager because she just recently rewatched Voyager, so we're going to do a discussion on season 6 and 7, which are my two least favorite seasons of the show. And it was very hard for Alyssa to get through it. It took her a while. She said she had to endure it. So that should be an interesting discussion for anyone who wants to sort of crap on that show. Also, yeah, she's going to be doing a Wheel of Time discussion, so I might join her for that sometime as well, maybe. I have been watching that show too. And of course I cover all sorts of things on my channel. I do Star Wars, Clone Wars, and we'll be doing my own review for each episode of The Expanse as well, so be sure to check us out for that. And thanks so much for joining. We'll see you next time. Too bad Don's not here anymore to say damn belters, but anyway.
Yeah, God, miss that. Miss it, Don. It's still recording. It's just me, and I can't turn it off. All right, folks, we're gonna go into some Expanse discussion. This will be the Expanse post show.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button once again. What the hell is wrong with me? Anyway, correct button this time. Thanks so much for joining.
Damn Belters! Now Earthers know what Belter feels.